Hello and welcome to Kanal Ter. This is Ayse Zekai with the Zek Report, the weekly news and magazine program. Today we'll be talking about health, economy, UK worldwide news, technology, the arts, and unknown facts, which I've named Did You Know? I'd like to start with COVID-19 corona. Now, the way I see it is that the whole world is in mourning, ending of a way of life and beginning of another. We're grieving as we've suffered great shock. Some of us live in fear and some in denial. It's hard to accept all the new rules and regulations and live in fear. It's very hard to accept this way of life, let alone come to terms with it and to embrace it. As with all grieving process, we have to go through the motions and accept that from now on we will be living our lives differently and have to learn to adapt. Continuing with COVID-19, globally, the deaths have passed 1 million. Researchers say, with many regions still surging numbers of new infections, a survey that shows deaths in the US, Brazil, India make up nearly half of that total. Russia and Colombia follows the increase also. Spain, Madrid has gone into partial lockdown as they are trying to control the second wave of the virus. Italy was one of the first countries in Europe to go into lockdown. Now it has one of the lowest rates as Italy's people have followed all the rules and restrictions and wear masks at all times. Now, the new restrictions in northeast and north of England, which forbids one household to mix with another household. North Wales has also gone into lockdown. Now, COVID-19 pandemic and the psychological effects that have affected us worldwide. Evidence from past outbreaks, as well as early evidence from the pandemic, indicates that we are likely to see an increase in mental health, such as depression, substance misuse, post-traumatic stress disorder for frontline health and care workers in particular. Good mental health is an asset and is also linked to good physical health. They both support positive social and economic outcomes for individuals and society. Mental disorders account for almost a quarter of the burden of ill health. Since the pandemic, 69%, which is more than 2/3 of all adults in the UK, have been suffering with mental health issues, the most common issues being in fear for the future, feeling stressed and feeling anxious. It's important to continue to look after ourselves physically and mentally. It's vital now more than ever. It will help us in the long term and to be able to fight the virus if we should be unfortunate enough to catch it. Eat healthily with a nutritious diet to help immune systems to function properly. Limit the alcohol consumption. Avoid sugary drinks. Do not smoke, as it can put you at risk of developing a severe disease if you become infected. The enormity of living in isolation changes our daily lives. Job loss, financial hardship, and grief over the death of loved ones has the potential to affect mental health and well-being of many. Signs of anxiety. Persistent worry or feeling overwhelmed by emotions. Persistent worry, a number of concerns such as health problems, finance, and a general sense that something bad is going to happen, restlessness and irritability. Difficulty in concentrating or sleep problems, and generally feeling on edge. Signs of panic attack. Sweating, trembling, shortness of breath, or feeling of choking. A pounding heart or rapid heart rate, and feelings of dread. Such attacks can happen suddenly and without warning. And once you have panic attacks, you constantly worry when you will have the next episode and become fearful, which restricts their normal activities. Now, for people that have panic attacks, it's always a good idea to have a paper bag next to you, and you can blow into it and take deep breaths, which will help to stop the panic attacks and to keep you calm. Signs of depression. A lack of interest and pleasure in daily activities, loss of weight or gain, insomnia or excessive sleeping, lack of energy or an inability to concentrate, feelings of worthlessness or excessive guilt, recurrent thoughts of death and suicide. Now, the psychological effects on children. Children are experiencing worry, anxiety and fear similar to adults. Fear of dying, fear of what it means to receive medical treatment. When schools were closed, the children did not have that sense of structure and stimulation that is provided by the environment, and had less opportunity to be with their friends, to get that social support that's essential for good mental well-being. In adults, as the coronavirus pandemic rapidly sweeps across the world, inducing a great deal of fear and worry and concern, such as older adults, care providers, and with people with underlying health conditions. In public health terms, the main psychological impact to date is elevated rates, stress or anxiety, especially when quarantined, as it affects many people's usual activities, routines or livelihoods. Levels of loneliness causes depression. For people with developing or existing mental health conditions are also now a major concern, along with mental health and well-being of all frontline workers. Well, job and financial losses, housing insecurity and quantity, working in a frontline service, loss of coping mechanisms, and reduced access to mental health services. Positive psychology suggests that by shifting the focus from illness to wellness, it does not mean absence of problems, but finding positive resources of coping with them. In other words, we have to learn to live with what we have at the moment with this disease, but we can help by keeping ourselves more positive, whether we meditate, read books, watch our favourite programmes on TV, and exercise is very important too, even if it just means going around the block. But remember to keep your masks on. Now, I'll be continuing with health. And the number of children with a life-threatening allergy to peanuts has doubled in the past 2 decades. with 1 in 50 children affected in the UK. The Artemis allergy study, of one of the biggest ever conducted with children aged 4 to 17 across Europe taking part, were given a peanut allergen each day, with the dose increasing 3 to 4 peanuts a day. The conclusion means that we are getting a step closer to an effective peanut allergy treatment, said George Toit, a pediatric allergy consultant. The treatment has been approved in US by Food and Drug Administration. Millions of UK's women have missed out on mammography examinations in the last year. It is very important as it can catch early signs of breast cancer. Carrying on with health, vaping, the e-cigarette. Those of you who've given up cigarettes may try the e-cigarette as an alternative. Many scientists and researchers have confirmed that they may create a tumour-promoting environment in the breast, which could spread to the lungs. Professors have said the findings should be a wake-up call. E-cigarettes are safe is a misconception, says US teams of professors and Cancer Research UK Imperial Centre. Well, let us not forget that the companies producing the e-cigarette are also the same companies that produce tobacco and cigarettes. Another revolutionary treatment, continuing with health, is eye drops that could replace reading glasses. It's very good news for me. Those of us who rely on reading glasses may soon be able to swap them daily with eye drops that would restore perfect vision up to 12 hours. Clinical trials are underway in the US on several eye drop products, and if successful, could be available in the UK within the next 2 to 3 years. This has prompted me to be curious and to look into who invented sunglasses. Sunglasses were originally designed for Chinese judges to hide their facial expressions in court. Today, sunglasses are as protective eyewear, effectively preventing bright sunlight from causing discomfort or damage to your eyes. Of course, they are also a fashion accessory, but sunglasses were originally made out of smoky quartz in 12th century China, where they were used by judges to mask their emotions when they questioned witnesses. Carrying on with health, dementia. A group of Nigerian Irish teens have developed an app which uses music to comfort those living with dementia, as they were worried about how people with dementia were coping during lockdown. So they decided to design and code Memory Haven. The app has already won a prize at the prestigious technology competition, Technovation. And I'd like to congratulate these 3 young ladies for doing so. Now, if you remember last week, I talked about the winter economy plan. We're going on to the economy now, which on 22/9/20 was introduced by Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor of Exchequer, which I will again repeat this week in short. The first one is the job support scheme to replace furlough scheme from 1st of November. Second one is VAT rate to remain at the reduced rate of 5% until end of March 2021. To be able to pay VAT payments to HMRC by 12-month instalments also. For the self-employed, extending the existing unemployment support scheme and to be able to pay tax liability by 12 monthly instalments. Job retention bonus, which is jobs creating schemes with training and apprenticeships for young people. Self-employment grant on similar terms and conditions as before. And pay as you grow, small to medium-sized businesses that can take out loans or have already taken out coronavirus business interruption loans from existing 6 years to 10 years. Businesses struggling can choose to make interest-only payments. If anyone in real trouble, however, can apply to suspend repayments altogether up to 6 months. No business taking up pay-as-you-grow will see their credit rating affected as a result. As I have repeated the new proposed government schemes, please either apply to HMRC sites or get in touch with your accountant, who will be able to advise you if you're eligible for any one of these schemes. Now, coming to UK news. The Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, promises low deposit mortgages to help young people get into the housing ladder. Conservatives to open a second headquarters in Leeds. The new HQ, in northern counterpart to Conservative campaign headquarters in London, is expected to open next year. Boris Johnson also has promised adults in England without A-levels will be offered free college courses. Now we carry on with economy. Britain's car industry risks losing out even if there is a post-Brexit deal with the EU. Car parts from Japan and Turkey used in the UK will not be treated British, so some exports may see higher tariffs. The famous Caesars Entertainment, the Las Vegas group, has struck a $2.9 billion deal to take over betting firm William Hill. British beef is back on US states' menu for more than 20 years as exports restart this week. The beef was banned after BSE outbreak in 1996, when cattle were infected by what became commonly known as the mad cow disease. Boohoo profit soars despite factory conditions. First fashion brand Boohoo's first half profit has risen 51% despite a storm over pay and working conditions for the making its clothes. H&M stores to close 250 stores worldwide. Rolls-Royce will seek to raise £2 billion from its shareholders through a rights issue. Will also raise funds by issuing new debt, while the right issue could unlock further financing. The company has been hit by the fall in air travel and the COVID-19 outbreak. TSB Bank is to close a third of its branches, which is 164 in numbers and 960 jobs. Shell has said plans to cut 7,000 to 9,000 jobs would be implemented by the year 2022. And that's included 1,500 people who are taking voluntary redundancies. Now for the UK housing market. Strong recovery in the housing market in 4 years, with house prices risen by 5%. North Wales tourist business fear closure as they fear local lockdowns could lead to job losses or even closures. Worldwide news. Disneyland. Sad news, Walt Disney has announced that it will lay off 28,000 employees, mostly at its US theme parks. The company from its theme parks have taken a major hit from the pandemic due to limited visitors' capacity and the uncertainty about how long the pandemic is to last. Disney had closed all of its parks during the lockdown. The pandemic on Disneyland remains closed. Disneyland Park is the first of 2 theme parks built at Disneyland Resort, opened in California on July 17, 1955, costing $17.5 million. Since then, there has been many theme parks around the world and millions of visitors. Continuing with news worldwide, China's robot taxis. Would you ride in one? Driverless cars, buses, taxis. The first is driverless taxis are now available to the public in China's biggest city. A giant Alibaba has started offering a free taxi service using a fleet of autonomous driver cars in a small area of Shanghai. It's one of numerous trials of various vehicles across the world. Driverless cars and buses have also been tested in virtual simulators. Another interesting article is NASA outlines plan for its first woman on the moon by 2024. And NASA is also to test £23 million toilet to space station. Astronauts will test the female-friendly toilet before its possible use in a future lunar mission. This vacuum system is designed to suck waste from the body and designed for the comfort of female astronauts. A rocket carrying the cargo ship was supposed to blast off from Wallops Island, Virginia, on Thursday. Now we come to the arts, and the book of the week that I would like to recommend that I've read and I found interesting and could not put the book down until I read the whole thing. It's by the Britt Bennett, and it's called The Vanishing Half. When the Vines twin sisters were growing up, they were inseparable. But now as adults, they've taken 2 paths. One living with her black daughter in the same community she's known her whole life. The other passing as white and living among loved ones who have no idea where she came from. Propulsive and compassionate, Bennett's follow-up to The Mothers is not to be missed. Now, we've come to the last part in our programme, where it's for unknown facts. And I've named this part, Did You Know? In July 1969, Apollo 11 was the first spacecraft to land humans on the moon. Neil Armstrong and the Apollo 11 crew faced a real chance that they would not return from the moon safely, leaving their families without financial support. Due to the extreme danger that they were about to face, they couldn't take out life insurance policies. So instead, they signed hundreds of autographs which their families would be able to sell in case they didn't make it back home. Luckily, those life insurance autographs were not needed after all, as they came home safely. They do, however, show up in space memorabilia auctions today, selling as much as $30,000. Well, that's all for this week. I would like to thank Duygu Tarmac, the London representative for Kanal and the cameraman and crew. And thank you for watching the Zek Report. I will be back next week with more news and events. Thank you for watching.